From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. An arrest made in connection with the state's largest wildfire so far this season. The Robertson draw fire still burning near Red Lodge and has charred around 30,000 acres and destroyed more than a dozen structures. Now a Carbon County man is facing felony charges. Carbon County Sheriff's Office announced the charges late this afternoon. Q2's David J. joins us now to tell us how they came about. David?
Well, Russ, the man charged is from Bridger. Court documents show 3 charges. 2 are for felonies for negligent arson and criminal mischief, and a third is a misdemeanor for negligent arson. We had a chance to talk with Carbon County Attorney Alex Nixon.
The state's allegations are that he was riding this motorcycle in an area that's closed for motor vehicle use and was not even on a trail, apparently, based on where the motorcycle was found.
Carbon County Attorney Alex Nixon alleges 55-year-old John C. Lightburn started the Robertson draw fire on Sunday, June 13th around 10 a.m. Documents state Lightburn told investigators he stopped his dirt bike and attempted to repair it. He spilled gasoline, describing there was gas all over.
These charges are based on the belief that he negligently caused the gasoline to be spilled, and despite having a hot day, dry conditions, prevailing winds, the way they were, he decided to try and check for a spark or create a spark during the course of his repair, and that caused the fire to ignite.
Court documents also state at least one law enforcement officer believed his life was in danger and was almost overtaken by the fire.
And it sounds like both residents and firefighters and law enforcement found themselves in some really tough and scary conditions on Tuesday when the fire blew up.
Investigators say Lightburn did not describe any attempts to extinguish the fire, and the motorbike, the area around it, and a helmet were burned.
I'm very proud of how the U.S. Forest Service law enforcement officers and the Carbon County Sheriff's deputies have cooperated and towards figuring out what happened. And it was obvious fairly quickly that there was a prime suspect.
And Alex Nixon says John C. Lightburn is scheduled for arraignment in Carbon County District Court on July 7th. He remains in custody in Gallatin County. Russ?
All right, David J. reporting. With those wildfires burning across the state and no moisture in sight for the near future, fire officials are asking Yellowstone County residents to lay off the fireworks this year. Q2's Mitch Laggy shows us what's at stake.
The risk of wildfire will likely be high heading into 4th of July weekend. Lockwood fire officials told me today that rural homeowners should start preparing now, and that people across the county should not light off fireworks this holiday.
I understand, the fireworks stands are still going to be open. But I really discourage the people from discharging the fireworks because the danger is just too high.
Conditions are ripe for a fire to get out of control fast. Lockwood firefighters have put out grass fires every month since the start of the year. Mavis and Ron Freitas own a home in the Emerald Hills subdivision in Lockwood. Their property is a prime example of how to mitigate the risk of wildfire on private property. Ron said fireworks were the couple's main concern.
We know what we're going to do. We're pretty well established as such, but you wonder sometimes about neighbors and if they use fireworks, which they're not supposed to, but that they might start a fire or then it would become a problem for everybody.
To help prevent the spread of wildfire, private property owners should trim the grass around their homes and trim the limbs of trees 6 to 12 feet off the ground. This can prevent fire from climbing up trees where it can burn stronger and longer. At the end of the day, Captain Kober said it's up to everyone to prevent fire starts this summer.
If we can limit the potential for fires to be burning in any community, it's a benefit to the overall outcome of the taxpayers of the district.
People who are looking to get their fireworks fixed this Independence Day are encouraged to attend one of 2 permitted celebrations, one at Metro Park in Billings and the other in Laurel. Reporting in Billings, Mitch Laggy, MTN News.
And deputies can hand out fines, and people who start wildfires can be held liable. Well, turning now to the Weather Center, Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh. We've got a full moon out there tonight. This was a strawberry moon.
That's right. The full moon for June, traditionally called the strawberry moon. The problem is It's pretty hard to see this evening, but as you take a look out tonight heading into tomorrow, maybe we'll get a little break in the clouds along the way. And remember, this time of the year, the moon tends to stay a lot closer to the horizon. In the summertime, when the sun is higher in the sky, the moon tends to be lower when it's full, and then vice versa into the winter. But this evening, the additional problem is that we have some clouds that have been developing, and it's been bringing a few showers, isolated thunderstorms along with it. Well, we could use the moisture. Some of those thunderstorms have been getting out of the hand just a little bit. We'll talk about that and the outlook for more potential showers and thunderstorms before the heat builds in, with the forecast coming up in a few minutes.
I think you had new at 10, yet another twist in the Republican-led legislature's ongoing battle against the Montana Supreme Court. The legislature says it's withdrawing its subpoenas that had requested internal court communications, but the court administrator says not so fast. MTN's Mike Dennison explains.
Republicans at the legislature issued the subpoenas in April, asking for internal Supreme Court emails and other documents. They were attempting to find out if high court justices had expressed opinions on GOP-passed laws that might come before the court in a constitutional challenge. But the high court blocked those subpoenas until it could rule on whether they're legal, and has been weighing the case based on written arguments from both sides. But late Tuesday, the Attorney General, acting as the legislature's lawyer, said the legislature is now withdrawing those subpoenas and that the case therefore is moot and should be dismissed. Chief Deputy Attorney General Chris Hansen said the legislature would like to negotiate with the court on the release of court documents. But Supreme Court Administrator Beth McLaughlin, who sued to block the subpoenas, says the case should not be dismissed. Her lawyer, Randy Cox, told MTN News Wednesday he'll likely file an objection that will ask the Supreme Court to rule on the issue anyway. He said there's no real direction in Montana law on the scope of a legislative subpoena and that it should be decided in case the issue comes up again. Meanwhile, the chair of the Republican-created Legislative Committee investigating possible bias within the judiciary says its efforts are not over. Senator Greg Hertz of Polson said Tuesday it still wants to look at certain court records and that withdrawing the subpoenas will help advance that cause. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Well, the special committee investigating the judiciary has a two-year budget of $285,000. After meeting with U.S. mayors, law enforcement officials, and community leaders, President Biden and Attorney General Merrick Garland unveiled new measures intended to curb the recent explosion in gun violence. Natalie Brand has more tonight from the White House.
With violent crime rising in cities nationwide, President Biden outlined his administration's plan to combat gun violence.
With the country opening back up again, the traditional summer spike may even be more pronounced than it usually would be.
In the first quarter of this year, homicide rates in 34 U.S. cities were up 24% from last year, 49% from 2019. Calling it unacceptable, the president says the administration will crack down on gun dealers breaking the law.
We'll make sure you can't sell death and mayhem on our streets.
The White House says that will include a zero-tolerance policy allowing the ATF to revoke gun licenses from dealers who fail to conduct required background checks and those who willfully sell weapons to anyone not qualified to have one.
Attorney General Merrick Garland also announced the formation of 5 new firearms trafficking strike forces to focus on key trafficking corridors across the country.
We know that an effective violent crime reduction strategy must also address the illegal trafficking of firearms and focus on keeping guns out of the wrong hands.
Guns traveling across state lines is a problem cited by Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott, who was among the city leaders invited to the White House Wednesday.
On top of a pandemic that we have here, we now have folks that are communities that are awash with guns. We now have folks who are dying over petty conflict, not just the normal drugs and gangs things that we continuously see.
Baltimore is also among the communities that will use funds from the recently passed American Rescue Plan towards hiring law enforcement and crime prevention programs. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
That plan also includes expanding summer programs and employment opportunities for teenagers and young adults. After years of debate and lawsuits, the federal government is officially turning over management of the National Bison Range to the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. The Department of the Interior made that announcement today, completing a transfer of the refuge in the Mission Valley to the tribes, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has been operating that for decades now. The move comes after years of lawsuits that had challenged the transfer. The last suit was settled in 2018, opening the door for the government to begin an orderly transition. Tribal officials have said they intend to continue operations as they've been, including public access. Well, this summer, the dirt is moving and big rigs are rolling in neighborhoods near the Moss Mansion. The city of Billings is on a mission to eliminate lead pipes. As Q2's Andrea Lutz reports, it's going to disrupt some residents, but officials say it's going to keep Billings clean and safe.
Residents in the downtown corridor are going to have construction right at their doorsteps this summer. That's as the city overhauls a major lead pipe renovation.
Lead pipes rusted out, dirty, and funneling water to households in Billings.
It's a potential health and safety thing that we want to stay on top of.
Here on Lewis Avenue, heavy machinery is working to do just that. Lead pipes were banned by the EPA, and now the task to remove them from older neighborhoods continues.
We have about 320 of those services left to do. This particular project is going to remove about 145 of those services.
Those with Public Works say they're mandated to get rid of all lead service valves by 2024. Right now, they're about 65% complete.
Lead pipes have been known to, introduce contaminants into the water. We haven't necessarily seen that, but this is a precautionary measure that we take to remove those to eliminate that possibility.
So work will continue for most of the summer.
We hope to be done with the lead services by middle of August.
But in the meantime, residents can expect some delays and loud construction work.
Obviously, we try to keep the homeowner access open, but there's going to be some disruption with parking because we have to store materials and gravel.
And after the work is done, Mac Fogelson says homeowners will have some work to do of their own.
We have the homeowners flush water through the system, and then we have them take a water sample to make sure that the water is clean once we're done.
So for right now, the lead valve service work spans along Lewis to Division all the way up to 8th Street. Next is Clark from Division to 7th Street. In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
Also happening this summer, the replacement of water mains in the Pioneer Park area. Along with that work, some 92 lead valves will also be replaced for homes in that area. All right, still to come on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2. Getting started early. Still time for kids to crack into the cattle industry. We'll have the details in tonight's Montana Ag Report. Then a little later in sports, an 8-second ride. We'll meet one of the world's top bull riders and hear why Montana has such a special place in his heart.